miss with a dozen roses. Such would astound you, the joy of children laughing around you. These are the makings of you. It is true, the makings of you. The righteous way to go, little one would know.
All right, peace and blessings. Welcome to another episode of Doula Knowledge Radio. Place for knowledge, born your host, Knowledge, born Allah. Got a special guest in the building. My special request. Y'all might have seen her here a little minute ago when they was doing the Goddess Rap podcast. So some time has passed, and nobody more bona fide and more qualified to do something different over here. Normally, I don't talk about myself, but I don't have no choice today. Okay, it just put me in the headlock, like, yo, you're going to answer some questions here today. Right? So it becomes my honor and privilege at this time to introduce some, present the other remarkable, divine woman, wife, mother, and one who is very sacred to this platform and very special in this transition of my life going from private to public. So it becomes my honor and privilege at this time to introduce some, present to others. In the world, Mrs. Fontaine, but in the now Valley culture, Mama Cafe.
Peace, peace, peace. I'm really excited about this conversation today. And before we get into your work and me asking questions about that, I want to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself in your own words. So, my first question is, who is Knowledge Born Allah and how would you describe what you do?
Good Lord. Off the rip, I don't even get like, that's supposed to be like the warm up. Who is Knowledge Born Allah? Knowledge Born Allah is a being that incarnated into this world for the betterment of Black people. So, from birth, knowledge has been shaped and molded and tried and forged in the fiery fires of purification, regulation, and elevation. Now, whether he goes along this path all the time to the letter, that's one thing. But that's his part of his destiny, part of his offerings here on the planet. So that's who he is and essentially what he does. So there's a modicum of mediums that's accomplished. One will get into writing. That was like the last thing I thought I would do, but however, it became the thing that was most incumbent. We'll get into that story, but writing, teaching, motivating, coaching, inspiring, leading, and following. Being obedient to this particular way of life. So created this platform, Doula Knowledge Radio, and a parent company, DTK Multimedia Production Company, with the backdrop Voices of the Diaspora, along with some other aspects in regards to working with at-risk youth and working with people that are in that medium middle sort of space, through various instances where which we help people find their purpose and motivate them to do what's necessary. So in essence, Knowledge Born Allah is a father, a son, a brother, an uncle, a cousin, a nephew, a retributionary, and a redeemer for the Black family and Black people.
Powerful, powerful, powerful. All right. I want to get into your personal journey and purpose. So, can you take us back for a moment and tell us about some experiences or moments in your life that push you towards education and teaching?
Education and teaching. Whew. My birth, and my birth story. Uh, I'm from Newark, New Jersey. I was born in Beth Israel Hospital, and I was born 3 months premature. I spent the first year of my life in the hospital, in the NICU, in an incubator. And that was an experience in itself, and this experience in an education. And there's some other aspects to my birth story that my mother shared on, this platform. So if y'all want to hear my mother tell my story, y'all can go check that out. But because of those things and how they said I would present to the world, my mother ensured that everybody in the family was involved in teaching me something. So we learned languages young, Arabic, English, all kinds of things, but everything was advanced because everybody in the family thought that I was going to have some sort of learning defect, based off of situations that happened within the first year of my birth and experimentation in the hospital and all kinds of stuff. But education had begun from that point. So everybody, aunts, uncles, older siblings, everybody is like, we got to make sure that he's ready uh, for school because education was something in the household that was taken very serious. So that was a catalyst for that particular journey, right? You see what I'm saying? My own story,
Yeah.
birth, my own life, and then the experience in the public school system, that on my own journey in that regard was another catalyst. I came to school on fire. I'm ready. I'm prepared for the fifth grade at kindergarten because this is how serious everybody took this education, and I thought that that was that. And I get into kindergarten, they trying to get me to take naps. They mad because I'm writing in cursive and all kinds of stuff. You see what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
the environment was not prepared for a young black mind, especially a young black male mind, that wasn't something that they could control. So there was a situation where I was always at odds with the teachers, and these teachers was teachers that lived in my neighborhood. You understand what I'm saying? Like they lived
Yeah.
in my neighborhood, and they did not cultivate an environment that was conducive for me learning. So, I took the test and I was on like the fourth grade reading level, fifth grade comprehension level. So instead of them taking me to another grade, they kept me in kindergarten. They kept me in kindergarten. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, ah. So I'm in there doing what young black minds do when in that challenge, rebelling, right? So I noticed that throughout kindergarten, K through six, right? I wasn't getting smarter, getting dumber in the class. Getting dumber in the class because it's like, all right, you got 2 hours worth of work and it take you 8 hours to do 2 hours, if it's 2 hours worth of work. So you just being babysat in that environment. And anything outside of that was seen as a behavior problem. So that zeal for learning came from home and was cultivated at home. It was thwarted in the public school system. So that was something that was a catalyst for me to begin working with what society deems at-risk youth as an at-risk youth, quote unquote. You know, one who was in gifted and talented, but at-risk youth, right? So you see how these things kind of cancel each other out. But I was in an environment that was at war with my development on every level. So in that space of rebellion, I rebelled. Wasn't the smartest thing to do, but it was necessary. And that pushed me to, begin to seek out things outside of what it was that I was supposed to be learning in school. So that public school war that was waged on my mind and my heart to try to squash the little bit of light that I had left in me in regards to education. Like I said, I thought that this was my job. You know what I mean? This was my job. And all I had to do was to go be the best possible student, an ambassador to my bloodline in that way. So that was, the catalyst and the push to begin this quest of teaching, researching, learning all of those things. And my mother played a very, very pivotal role in my cognitive development and the development of my siblings in that way. Everything we wanted to study, we studied as a family. So we took religion and spirituality and all of those things like a course of study versus zealotry. So anything we wanted to study, we studied and took it as a course of study. And anything that anybody in my family gravitated towards, that was them. That was their particular way of life. So
All right. So, we're going to go back to your name. Your name carries meaning. Can you
mm,
talk about what it represents and how it connects to your purpose?
hmm. Knowledge born of Allah. Okay. So knowledge born is an action. Knowledge born also is a mathematical equation. It's a process of taking things from a state of unknown to known, and then the various intricacies associated with the process of discovery. So, what I mean, like a mathematical equation, when you're looking to figure out something in algebra, for instance, they say solve for x. X in mathematics representing the unknown, right? Or solve for n, solve for this, solve for that. So the process that you go about is a process of elimination. What you do on one side, you do on the other side. You take it through the filter. You take it through your lived experiences. You take it through your zeal, your information, all of these aspects in that regard, and you begin to deduce. And you take it through a formulaic process of breaking those things down. So you take them from knowledge to born. And then when you arrive at the answer, you make knowledge born. So now there's no space or doubt in regards to this answer because you took it through the process, right? You took it through the process. So now that N or that X or whatever it is no longer unknown to you. So it connects to my purpose in a way that I'm always on the quest, always on the journey, always on the way to find an answer. So we make the unknown known and the unseen seen and heard everywhere. So that was my acculturation into that particular way of life to go from Islam as the religion to Islam as an esoteric science. So knowledge born of Allah. My family name on my father's side is Allah. So not just born of the deity essence, but of the familial tie and bond in regards to family. So going from knowledge to born, making knowledge born, and knowledge born being something that everyone in our culture strives for, to make knowledge born in no limited time, right? Because you don't have a lot of attention span when it comes to people and people taking in information whatever your product, your service, your goals, your aspirations. So you got to make it succinct, and you have to make it palatable. So in those various, intricacies, that's what my name means and how it relates to my purpose.
Powerful, powerful. Was there a specific gap or problem you noticed in education, especially for our communities, that made you say, I need to create something different?
Definitely, there's definitely a disconnect in regards to a space of self actualization, right? So when we were in charge of our own education, there was a group effort. What I described in my household was the norm in our education system. Dr. Bobby E. Wright, peace and blessings be upon him, said there's a difference between education and training. So education begins at home. Training is what you receive outside the home. So in my household, education was a priority. So as I described, we learned. My mother was in college. We went to college with her. We was on the college campus. We were in the college classes and all of those stuff with her, quiet, learning. You understand what I'm saying? So we did all kinds of things from that regard. The disconnect first came from identity, and second from conformity in the form of subordination. And in the space of subordination, insubordination is not tolerated. So if you have a child in the class and the identity is not properly cultivated, they're going to have an identity crisis. So if they have a crisis of identity or an identity in crisis, they're going to act out things that are unlike them. So, for instance, if you have 10 children in the classroom and 8 of them are behaving poorly, and you have 2 students in the classroom that are on the honor roll, you're going to have 10 children that are going to behave poorly because these other 2 see that these other 8 are getting all of the attention and they want the same sort of attention. So they're going to behave in that manner. Now you have 10 children that's supposed to be behaving poorly, right? If their identities was addressed, if their needs were met, they won't be acting out in the class. But if your concern in the classroom is subordination, you're the teacher and they're the student, and you have the mentality, I already got my education, you need to get yours, you are creating an environment that is inauthentic and ripe for rebellion. So now you will utilize most of your time striving to correct behavior to push militaristic conformity with children who are inquisitive and are looking to explore with every part of their being. Every part of their being. So if your classroom is not cultivated to address those particular needs, they're going to find some sort of way. And if you figure that thing out with them 10 children and them 10 children on track, they're going to give you 20 more children. They're not going to give you more help. They're going to give you more students. So you're going to get 20 more people in there with behavioral quote unquote problems. They're going to dump their problems off, and you in there with 30 children. So the instance is not rewarding to the student or to the teacher in this environment. If you had one one teacher for each 10 children, you could have 30 children in there. You have 2 other teachers in that classroom. But what do? They put 20 to 30 children in the class, dump them on one teacher, The parents come in, they like, you the teacher. You understand what I'm saying? So you have to contend
Mm-hmm.
with an army in an environment where you're there for the children's cultivation and elevation. And it's a tug of war with the school system, it's a tug of war in the classroom, and it's a tug of war with the parents. All of these are all disconnects. All of these are all disconnects because this institution is supposed to exist for the betterment of the children. The family environment is supposed to exist for the betterment of the children. Everything that's there is supposed to be for their benefit, and it's for their detriment based off how this environment is shaped and molded. So the disconnect I learned with my own education and with my children's education early on is it had to be something that addressed their identity, and then it had to be something that addressed the environment that they lived in and who they would grow to be. That's education. Everything else is training. If I need to teach you how to sit still, that's training. That ain't education. If I need to have you on a factory clock where you got a 15-minute lunch break and I need to prepare you for that kind of environment, I'm going to have you in the classroom where you're sedentary. So you can sit in your cubicle, you can go eat your lunch and go back to your cubicle and do your desk work. You understand what I'm saying? If I need you on an assembly line, I need you to be in a straight line and focused on whatever I tell you to do. Militaristically, I need you to walk and march in a straight line. So this environment is preparing you for the factory, the assembly line, the cubicle, the military, and prison. All because you were robbed of a place where you're supposed to have a zeal to be able to be a part of this society, your familiar society and the society as a whole. Your genius is supposed to be cultivated in an environment so that you can add on to the society and make it better for future generations. This is why you're supposed to be in these environments very young. So the disconnect of our identity and subordination via insubordination were two things that had to be addressed very early. The more people you can do it with anything that people like, right? For instance, if you a person that deals with astrology, you could deal with astrology as a whole. But if you a Gemini or a Pisces, you want to hear more about the Gemini and the Pisces than everything else because that's the first thing that resonates with you. So why would you think our children be any different? They want to hear about themselves. They want to hear uh, about somebody that looks like them in a manner that they can strive for. So if they want to be scientists, they should be inundated with black scientists because that would motivate them to see proof of concept, proof of this thing that's in their imagination, their dream, their goal, their aspiration. Somebody already did it. We could look at it and study it. They want to be a mathematician. If they, want to be whatever they want to be in life, they have working models to be able to look at that are practical and resources for them to go do research. So that became something that was a push and the motivation in regards to what it would mean to cultivate a future uh, for our people via this education situation.
Powerful, powerful. This education situation. All right. I want to get into the work and the message. When people pick up one of your books, what do you want them to feel or realize right away?
I want them to feel or realize right away that someone took the time to consider them first, to consider them first, right? You ever been somewhere where you just wanted somebody to see you, somebody to hear you, somebody to feel you? how important that is, how important that connection and that bond is. Someone to see you first, see you for who you are, not for what you appear to be, to hear you, not just listen to respond. Like they hear you, to feel you, because some things need to be felt, right? Some things need to be felt. It's like, damn, I felt that. Like I didn't hear that. I didn't see that. I felt that. I felt that in my gut. You understand what I'm saying? That hit me in the head, like bam, oh man. That's where the breakthroughs are. So again, if you have an idea, you have a determined idea, you have a goal, an aim, an objective, there's supposed to be somewhere where you can go to be able to get that need fed. So when they open the book, they're an entrepreneur, for instance, volume one, they're an entrepreneur. Immediately, they have visual recognition, they have name recognition, they have people that they can look at and people that they can read about who are entrepreneurs that look like them. Somebody that might not even know their name. I know that. I know that picture. I know that picture. Or the people they knew the name. Oh, that's what they look like. Oh, damn, I didn't know such and such was black. We already get into it, and then it's like, well, who's that? I never heard of this person, or I don't know the picture. The wheels are turning. The wheels are turning. So as an entrepreneur, you go through struggles, you go through adversity, and then there's reward. So you get to see both. You don't just get to see, oh, okay, well, I started a business today, I got $1 billion by tomorrow. That's not how it works. So you have these working models for you to be able to examine. So every aspect of Black life, there's working models for you to look at, historical to present, and from all around the globe. Immediately, you pick up any of these books in this 12-volume series, and there's something for you in it. There's something created with you in mind, something created for you and your family in mind.
All right, as you were saying, you just said it's 12 volumes. You discuss a lot of topics, and I want you could highlight a few topics that you discuss in your book and why you feel those lessons are especially important right now.
Well, if I could skip around,
You can.
thank you. If I could skip around to the power of the Black family, if I can go directly to that, one of the largest attacks economically, mentally, emotionally, physically, psycho spiritually is the attack on the Black family. There are Black people who have been Black all their life and they have no concept of their family whatsoever. Your family is a place where you're supposed to derive your purpose, your strength. In Nile Valley culture, they teach us it's our oldest religion. And the source of your power. If you were to look at the Black family today and you ask 10 Black people, what does Black family mean to you? Or what is the Black family? Or who is the Black family? You're going to get 10 different answers. You're going to get 10 different answers, and all 10 of them might be contradictory, one to the next, to the next, to the next. So, the most powerful source on the planet can't even define itself. And if it can't define itself, it won't be able to refine itself. So immediately rolling up my sleeves and dealing in the Black family, back to identity, you know, back to source of power, back to a historical working model, but also deepest at its core, the BS that we endure, the trauma and the drama, not to shy away from any of that, because in essence, this is one of the main uh, symptoms that has us awry, where you got 10 people in the house and it's not a family, and it's 10 individuals in the same family. Everybody's in their own world, everybody's in their own zone. Anybody, they think in that space that if they brought an idea to their family, that the other 9 family members is going to clown them and disrespect them and berate them and tell them that they can't do that and they stupid and there ain't no way in the world that that's ever going to work. That's poisonous. That's toxic. But if you sat with them individually, you would find out in that household that's so toxic, why it's toxic. Oh, something happened to me when I was young. Or whenever I brought up something, nobody heard me. So I just thought that this was the way that it was supposed to do. Like, oh, we might talk a little junk, but blah, 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 blah. Like, whatever the blank says, you begin to fill in the blanks in regards to all those things. And all of those things become contrary to what you're building and what and who family is. Your first name is significant. Your last name is significant. Who you represent out in the world. I use that term, ambassador to the bloodline. You're representing your total bloodline, your maternal and paternal bloodline. Every time you walk, every time you go out, every time you interact, and every time you engage. I remember I spoke to my nephew one time. My sister called me and was like, yo, you need to talk to your nephew. He getting C's and D's in school. She like, yeah, talk to your uncle. So I got him on the phone and I said, nephew, what's going on? He like, oh, school, blah, blah, blah. I said, what's the first thing you put on the paper when you're doing an assignment? He said, your name. I said, how many names? He said, my first and my last name. I said, do you know what your first and your last name mean? He's like, I said, you're representing your entire family, your mother and your father's entire family with your first and your last name. If they never meet anybody else from your family, from your bloodline, from your mother and your father, they know you. They don't even know you, they know your work. Now, if you're telling me that this is the best that you can do, then it's okay for you to put your first and your last name on that work and turn it in. But if it's not, remember that everything that you put your first and your last name on, you're representing your bloodline to the fullest. They may not ever see you. All they may ever see from you is your work. So make sure when you're affixing your name to something, you're doing your best. Can you do that? Yeah, I can do that. I need you to hear you say, I can do that. Uncle, and I ain't your uncle. I can do that, uncle. I said, who you representing when you put your name on that paper? My bloodline. I was like, you remember my mother? Yeah, I remember grandma. You're representing her too. Do your best. And my sister in the background, like, I thought he was about to say, don't make me knock you out. Yeah, see what I'm saying? Because she know me like that. But if I'm not cultivating the why in regards to the zeal and what you're doing, what am I doing? What am I doing? What are we doing? So we should be able to look at these situations like this with our children, with anybody in our environment, and be able to cultivate an earnest respect for themselves and a respect for who they represent. Then we can get into learning the skill. Then we can get into proficiency. Then we can get into improvement on that side. On the other side, if we do not address the trauma, the drama, the pain, the hell, the strife, the mistrust, and the distrust, the family secrets, and all of the BS that erode the family from the inside out, we do not have a righteous connection to one another, and it's going to continue to be strife and turmoil. So those things go into sabotage and some of the other maladies that affect us, and we cannot harness properly the power that exists in the Black family without addressing those concerns. So that's one book that I could, look at and engage and say, okay, this is necessary. I don't want to present anything that's not actionable, that's not practical, and that's not necessary. We got a lot of information that's out here, and it's a process to go from information into knowledge. So this process of redeeming and assigning proper value back into the Black family is how we can get the entrepreneurs, the scientists, the doctors, the lawyers, whomever we need within the framework of our society, because they are minds that are cultivated properly and attuned to their purpose.
All right. You've chosen to focus on digital ebooks. Why was that important for you?
You see this book? Hold on. You see how big this book is? That's one. What about this one? You see that?
Yeah.
So imagine 12 of them books, right? Nobody reading them. And even if they're reading them, they don't want to carry around these 12 books. Some people, they might be like, yeah, man, I need the physical book. You know what I'm saying, son? Catch me in the book, because you know how to be talking. They talk sleep. You know what I'm saying, son? You know what I'm saying? When I get that book, son, you know what I'm saying? When I got that book, you know what I'm saying? And then I get into the book, But most people aren't even attuned into that. And one thing I learned from my sons was I had to help prepare their imagination for these books. After I wrote the first book, or the first couple of books anyway, my sons were my litmus test. I said, yo, son, I wrote a book. They're like, oh, hell. Daddy done wrote a Bible or a Quran or something. And you know how daddy be talking. I'm like, yo, it's 19 pages. That's it? Oh, I'm gonna read that right now. You understand what I'm saying? So I begin to, keep that in mind. Keep that in mind with my own sons. They ain't reading no Bible or no Quran. They don't care if daddy wrote it. You understand what I'm saying? And after that, they went through a couple of books and was like, oh, yo, son, my daddy write books. What your daddy do? You understand what I'm saying? So it's like it became something that was interactive, and the format was conducive to the creative young Black mind. So I wrote with my children in mind. I wrote with your children in mind. I wrote with the expressed intent of not appearing like it's work. Because they go into the public school system, they got to pull a 8, 10, 12, 14, 16-hour shift sometimes. And then they got to come home and do 3 hours worth of homework. They're exhausted. And they learn nothing about themselves the entire day. And then they go to sleep for a little while, and they have to get back up and do it again. And we're asking them to perform at a high level. We're expecting them after not being fed. They're running around on fumes. And don't add the fact that if you at home teaching them at home, when they come home from school, you got to deprogram them, all of that BS that they learned in the school. So you have expectations for them in addition to what the school has. So they're starved all day. They might get a little, fed when they come home. But they don't even have any time to self-actualize in that process. So who are they to them? And is your curriculum tailored to who they are, what they want to do, and where they want to be? Because the school ain't. They might like a subject in school, might, or they might not like nothing, no subject in the school. They're just there because they gotta be there. So that also became something that was a catalyst. They got book bags, what I'm saying? They got book bags with mad books in them. I wanted the books to be in their imagination and not necessarily in their hands. I want them to look and see in their mind, and the wheels in their mind are turning. The colors that were selected, the pictures that were selected, the music that was selected, all of it to cultivate the mind of one who wants to be fed. They want to learn. They're excited about learning, but they ain't learning anything about themselves. Over here, they know that, again, as I said earlier, they're considered first. It's written with them in mind. It's written for the family in mind. I want the family to win. I want the family to be visualizing themselves in a position of a champion, of one being victorious and not victims and victimizers.
Deep. I mean, just be honest, you did answer this next question. I can read it out loud. I mean, it says, how does digital access help parents, homeschoolers, or organizations actually use your material instead of just letting it sit on the shelf? But I mean, you just summed it up. You just summed it up with the reason why you created the digital ebooks and how it was intended for children. So I mean, you can add some more if you would like, but I'm gonna
I
be
should
honest,
add a
you
tiny
you
bit,
said it.
just a tiny bit, a tiny bit. Um, let me just add one, for instance. I'm gonna share my screen real quick. Let me know if you can see it.
Yes, I can see it.
So just looking at the format, right? It looks and feels like a book, but it's almost like not a book at the same time. So the imagery is there in a way. If you saw this somewhere, you wouldn't pick it up just for a second, even if you didn't read it, you wouldn't pick it up. Most people would pick it up, whether they black or not. They would pick it up. So now, the colors, the imagery, then you have music.
Us against the world and all bets is off.
So you already engaging the ear, the eye and the ears happening. Sankofa effect. What's Sankofa? And what's the Sankofa effect? Automatically, your eyes, your ears, and your mind is working. Off the rip. Off the rip. Oh, it sounds like some pages are turning, right? The wheels are turning in your mind automatically. So you got a Sankofa bird right there. You could take a whole day doing a project, group project, family project, whatever the case may be, and everybody sharing what they found on the Sankofa bird. Everybody can pick one of these people and do their own research and come back and have like a family presentation type of situation. This is what I learned about John Jacques Dessalines. This is what I learned about Harriet Tubman. And then in that family time space, you could talk about a family member that exhibited these traits. So they're not just looking at John Jacques Dessalines, they're looking at their uncle or their grandfather or their great grandfather or whomever in their bloodline that's reminiscent of that. So now you're not just talking about the Sankofa effect, you're going through the process of redeeming it and applying it to you. So that's just one example. You take the books off the shelf and you begin to give them life and ignite the spark and the zeal and the fervor of life for Black life, a respect for Black life, and a push towards Black reformation.
All right. I want to focus on speaking directly to Black homeschooling families. What
Mhm.
challenges do you see Black homeschooling families facing the most right now?
I think that my mother used to say about herbs. She said that we use the herbs like the medicine and the medicine like the herbs. So she was saying that the herbs, the thing that your body is mostly comprised of, and to get rid of the ailments and diseases and key systems of the body, you have to give the body the proper medicine. So they got you convinced that the herbs are something temporary, and this Tylenol and all of this stuff that they're using that are synthetic, that are breaking down key systems in your body and causing you more stress and strain and blocking pain receptors becomes something that you become dependent on. And the herbs are something that they bitter to the taste and ain't good for you and blah blah blah. So you use the thing that's most righteous for you sparingly, and the thing that's most detrimental to you uh, religiously. Right? Religion means to do something over and over again. So the homeschooling families, the homeschool co-ops, all of those things, we look at them as a collective, as something to try out versus something that's a necessity. And we go to those, concentration camps. Like that's something that we're supposed to do religiously. We're supposed to do that over and over again. These homeschooling co-ops are supposed to be the first place to go, not the last place. After everything else has failed, I didn't try everything. This is how the people used to come to my mother for herbs. I didn't tried everything. The doctor said I got 6 months to live. Can you help me? Now they want a miracle. Now they want a miracle, right? So that process becomes something that we have to unlearn. That process, what how they call it, unschooling. You see what I'm saying? And begin that transition back to home. It's home. This is where the education system came from. Education system came from home. Home into the school house. So outside of the home to the schoolhouse, we were at home first. And we learned what we needed to learn at home those things were practical. That's where your education came from. If you learn how to fish, you learn how to hunt, you learn how to farm, you learn how to take care of animals. These are things that are skills that you can still utilize now that we don't have anymore. That's in the space of our genetic memory that we aren't awakening. So an engineer or somebody who's building a house, all of these components that are necessary. These are skills that you need forever. Now they call them trades. You understand what I'm saying? So when we did the schoolhouse and the K through 12 environment, if you were in kindergarten, you were responsible for kindergarten. But if you were in the first grade, you're responsible for first grade and kindergarten, second, first, kindergarten, all the way up. So K through 12, you were responsible for the children that were in the younger grades. So a group effort was there in regards to ensuring that everybody was in the space of socialization and everybody was learning from everybody. So when you don't have that environment anymore, you have a bunch of individuals and nothing is working in that way. So the homeschooling environment, the homeschool co-ops need our attention, need our funding, need our support so we can build out institutions that are tailored towards what we need in the future for those young minds to be cultivated in an environment that's conducive to what their future goals, aims, and objectives are for their families and for our nation. Those little Chinese children you see in the Chinese food store, their education is in that Chinese restaurant. Their training is to go out and get whatever information is necessary and bring it back to their people. They don't learn English to talk to their family. They learn English to take your order and tell you how much something costs. You understand what I'm saying? And they got the little boy or the little girl on the stoop taking your order. So they're interfacing with you and your community and your society at 6 and 7 years old, and they grow up in that business. That their little boy become 25. Guess what? He ain't going to go work for nobody. He got a duty and responsibility right there that he done cultivated for 18 years. So they sent them off to learn business or whatever it is to come back to better that business, to keep that business in rotation. He grew up with a family grew up in there, and they turn that over. Then they got 6, 7, 10 locations. You understand what I'm saying? You only seen them at one. And they helping other families because they came up like that. So our first line of defense in regards to cultivation should be to support those initiatives and those places that are growing up these young black children, these young African children for our future. So they should be in an environment that's not something that they do at the end. It should be the norm. It should be the norm within the society that's looking to build and cultivate intelligent young black minds in that manner.
All right. How do your books and workbooks help parents who might feel overwhelmed or unsure where to start?
I think that's a perfect question. I know Brother Dr. Samari Kamara has a warrior training mechanism where they give you steps. I know at Kamali Academy they have that. I know Marcus Klein, Freedom Home Academy International, they have those steps, right? I know, Baba me, my man Koyo and them, they have those steps, at the Uhuru Academy. So you have to be able to tap in with those within your networks, right? But the books also give you the articulation and give you the insights and the ideas or suggest some ideas for you to be able to impart this information to your families, to your homeschool networks, to your political education classes. Uh, I wrote with the children in mind, but it doesn't matter your age. It doesn't matter your age. Indiscriminate to your age, indiscriminate to your station. You know, if you're a black person, this is necessary for you, written for you. It's not written in a whole bunch of that uh, doctor Eurocentric English. It's written for you, for you. So I think that kind of cuts through a lot of the, the jargon and all of the, you know, unnecessary philosophicalness that, the fluff that we put in, and then, gets really into the practical aspect. So it's created as a workbook for you to work. You know, the tactical manual, uh, secure the legacy, is practical. It's practical. You can get started, get busy. You understand what I'm saying? Like you can get busy, immediately. So the workbook, it ain't busy work. It's proper cultivation work for your mental, for your emotional, for your physical, for your spiritual. It's there for you to get busy.
All right. What do you think changes for a child when they learn from culturally rooted material?
Everything, everything, everything changes for them. When I begin my own process of self discovery in that way and reading from authors who look like me or had the same cultural inclination, the light went off. And I began to want more of that. So my purpose came from home. My purpose came from my bloodline. My purpose came from my ancestors. Every move that I would make, it was already told to me from when I was young. Where I would end up, what I would be doing, all of those things, they all came to me, from my bloodline. So if that's the sort of your greatest strength, if it's not properly cultivated, it could be the source of your greatest weakness. So culturally relevant material, you have to decide what your culture is, what your culture is going to be in your household, and then feed that particular cultural force with the proper foods, with the proper environment. Like my nephew, the instance I gave for my nephew, writing your name on a piece of paper. What does that mean? It takes on a whole nother meaning now. Well, when my niece was working two jobs, she was in college, she was playing sports. I'm like, yo, fam, you 20. You about to be burnt out. She's like, Uncle, I am burnt out. I said, look, what can you handle right now? What can you handle? What can you handle? What can you properly commit yourself to right now? And how long can you do that? I'm like, do you have to work two jobs? Do you got to be playing sports and taking a full load of classes right now? Can you do that right now? How long can you sustain that? She's like, well, I can work one job and I can do some of these classes. I said, you got the rest of your life to get your education. You got the rest of your life. I'm like, I'm still getting my education right now. You understand what I'm saying to you? Like, yo, you 20, fam. You about to blow a gasket. I said, is it affecting your health? Yes. Is it affecting your mental health? Yeah. How could it be good for you right now? Don't put all of this pressure on yourself. We love you and we want to see you well. If I was her age, ain't nobody talking none of that stuff to me. You understand what I'm saying? Suck it up. That's life. You understand? I ain't getting no breaks. You ain't getting no breaks. We gotta break that.
We
We gotta
do.
break that. We gotta break that. We gotta give it back to whom it came from, because there's standards and there's levels of excellence, and then there's a space where those things go to intemperance and excess. But yes. So if we had plans in place from when they were young, they wouldn't have to be doing all of this foolishness. In those wonder years, in the wonder years, I call them from 18 to 35. Just because you turn an age, 19 to 35, pardon. Just because you turn an age don't mean you know what's going on. So one of my programs, DTK Empower You Youth Services, they will average youth from the ages of 7 to 18. From 7 to 18. And then you have DTK Strategic Planning Services from 19 to 35. So imagine you turned 18 and from 19 to 35, you have a strategic planning service that can help you cultivate and make the proper decisions based off of what you aspire to do. And you don't just got to figure it out. And you don't hear foolishness like, you're in your 20s and you're just supposed to be partying. You waste a decade of your life. So getting those things in order based off of your needs, your goals, your aims, your aspirations, and that set ability to be able to put that together in a plan for you with action steps and contingencies. Those things work, right? So you're prepared and you receive something from somebody who loves you, somebody who got you in mind, somebody who can properly assess you and put you on the right track. Wouldn't you be proud of your family in that way? If they viewed you with them skills and those gifts, wouldn't you be looking at your family differently? You wouldn't be having to go off of what your enemy has put in the virtual space or on the television or in the movies or what you hear in the music. You would know different. You came up. And that thing can go from the different to the cultural norm.
So I'm gonna have to wrap it up for today. We're gonna definitely have to come back with a part two, as you already know. I still have several more questions, and I know you have 21 questions coming up as well. Um, Before we end, though, I do want you to speak about the bundle sale.
Okay. So my ebook series, Voices of the Diaspora, is a 12-book ebook series dealing with every aspect of Black life, and still adding to that series as well. Normally, that bundle is priced at $140, right? And if y'all love me, you know what I'm saying? Honey, y'all could go to my website, dotheknowledge.com, and pay that $140. You understand what I'm saying? I wouldn't be mad. You understand what I'm saying? I would be glad actually. But There's a sale going on right now. You can get all 12 of the volumes for $50. It's like a $90 discount because the immediacy is more important to me than a dollar figure or a dollar amount. Be around for a long time, So get these in the hands of the people who need them right now, so we can cultivate the nation, the world, the future that we want to see. I heard that terminology, that adage, be the change that you want to see. And it, these books are in all of the cultural institutions in every Black household. And we can build a better future together. Then my job is done. All praise due. So they can get the book from me directly, like that. Put that up there. Cash App $ knowledge won't lie, or PayPal.me/do knowledge radio. Just send me your email address and I'll send it to you directly. No scam, no ham. You understand what I'm saying? No scam, no ham out here. Or you could go to my website, you know what I'm saying, and pay $140. You know what I'm saying? I would appreciate it. 100 people could go over there today. I would not be upset if 100 people went over there today. You know what, son? I don't want to pay $50. I want to pay the full price, $140. 100 y'all there, it would be good to go. So, the books from these other projects that I'm working on, the docu-series, Voices of the Diaspora docu-series, and the Multimedia Production Company, DTK Multimedia Production Company. So if you want to see films and documentaries, if you want to read books and hear music from artists that are uplifting, that are created with you in mind, these are the initiatives, right? My goal, Mama Got That, is to tell 1 million Black stories from around the globe. Black people are enough. Your stories are enough. Your stories are important. You don't have to become somebody else or pretend to be somebody else for somebody to hear you and see you and garner something great from your mind. So that's the goal, the aim and objective. And the least represented and often most capitalized and distorted image, legacy, and family is the Black family. So if you are sick of that and you're excited to be able to see yourself in the proper credence and light, then this is one step further.
Yes, yes. So again, please make sure you support. The Cash App link and PayPal link is down below. We're gonna have to come back with part two because yeah, like you said, this is rare, us getting to hear about knowledge. Us getting to hear about knowledge born alive. So you know, me and knowledge will be back with a part two to dive more into who and what Knowledge Born Alive is in these digital books, workbooks, hands-on learning courses, and what's coming up in the near future.
Well, thank you for your time. Honest to you, honest to your family, and honest to all of the work that you do and will continue to do for our benefit.
It's a pleasure.
So we out of here, okay? Folks got things to do. So peace, synapty, and we will see you next time with
Saneti.
part two.
Knowledge born. What's the science, baby?